wholesale phone car distributor.
Shining through with quality service at unbeatable prices. We are the leading providers for you and your family with the best option for solar panel units. Units that are recognized worldwide as the highest quality components. Plus, we not only install your unit, but promise after-sale maintenance guaranteed. We are Solar Options and Electroworks Limited, located at 6 Murray Avenue, Morant Bay, St. Thomas. Call us at 982-2910 or 486-5888. Solar Options and Electroworks Limited, serving the community through the power of solar energy.
It's Summertime Alternatives Fun Day and Pool Party. Somerset Falls, Portland, Sunday, July 29. Big Pop, DJ Jagger, Callous Attitude, and DJ Denbo from Fame 95 FM.
Also featuring Captain Baker and Fire Greg from Stylzfm.
Action starts at 10 a.m. Win Blackberries, weekends for two, cash and lots more. Enjoy slide, pool, boat rides, waterfalls, and rafting. Admission $750, pre-sale $1,000 at the gate. Ticket outlets, Braham's Texaco, Nikki's Novelties, and Asheville Call Center. Sponsors, G-Jam, Wusinko, Frenchman's Cove, and Real Vibes Party Wine. It's the Supreme Summer Party.
Keep listening.
In life I shall be the same, in death I shall be a terror.
Iman Blak, me no brown, me no white. Now see Babylon stripe, you mad? Yeah man. Don't try to resist this metamorphosis. Right yourself with Iman Blak. Listen to Iman. Step aside, slash ya.
This is Marogini. Salut, messieurs, mesdames. Vous êtes en train d'écouter Metamorphosis avec Dr. Iman Blak.
People moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of the skin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Vote for me and I'll set you free. Rap on, brother, rap on. Well, the only person talking about love now never is the preacher.
From a cocoon to a butterfly, metamorphosis.
There is a life far, far away, where there's no light.
People of the world into one vast organization to plant the banner of freedom on the great continent of Africa. If Europe is for Europeans, then Africa is for the black people of the world. Men and women as black as I am, and even more so, had believed themselves right under West Indian order of society. I was simply an impossible man to use openly the term Negro. Yet everyone beneath the threat was calling the black man a nigger. I had to decide whether to please my friends and be one of the black whites of Jamaica and be reasonably prosperous, or come out openly and help improve and protect the integrity of the black millions and suffer. I decided to do the latter. There is no future for a people who deny their path. My foreparents, my grandparents, my mother and father did not suffer and die to give me an education to oppress, slight, or discourage my people. Whatsoever education I acquired out of their sacrifice of over 300 years, I shall use for the salvation of the 400 million Negroes of the world. And the day when I forsake my people, may God Almighty say there shall be no more life for you. I unequivocally rejected the racist assumptions of much white American Christianity, namely that God had created the black man inferior and that he had intended Negroes to be a servant class. He was a wooden drawers of water. I predicated my view of man and the doctrine of Imago Dei. All men regarding the God were created in the image of God.
So many things that's held us down, but now it looks like things are finally coming around. I know we've got a long, long way to go, and where we'll end up, I don't know. But we won't let nothing hold us back. We're putting ourselves together, we're polishing up our act. If you've ever been held down before, I know you refuse to be held
caterpillar. From a caterpillar to a butterfly. The metamorphosis is here. It's live. Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis, word, sound and power, music, drumming, current affairs, everything to grow and lift up your mind. Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis, creating beauty and stimulating change from a constant supply of relevant knowledge and information.
Cause we've been trying on your mind's much too long.
No more youths and youths for sale. We get wise and don't decide to change their style. Bobby wrong, keep your empty promises and your crooked smile. Metamorphosis, come with your thoughts, change your way of thinking. Metamorphosis, the change begins with you.
Black men of Ethiopia, Timbuktu, Alexandria gave the light of civilization to this world. Ethiopia shall stretch forth our hands unto God, and princes shall come out of Egypt.
I, son of the Most High, Jah Rastafari.
Keep listening.
Dear Metamorphosis, I am a 13-year-old. I've been listening to your program for the past month. My dad introduced me to this program. He's a Rasta too. Well, I wanted to say thank you for waking me up. I am not living a European life no more. And by the way, what is the artist and song name who sing the song? We know our history. Keep Rastafari movement alive.
Don't keep charlatans at this we wise and human stand sipping from the cupful cup of peace. Not one shall be, not one. Your people shall not enter. These are all alone. We wise and a true man stand sipping from the cup of peace. You chant down on Babylon. You chant down on Babylon. You chant down on Babylon. Chant down on Babylon. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise. You give thanks and praise to the whole man of creation. Chant on Babylon. Chant on Babylon. You chant on Babylon. Chant on Babylon. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise. Give thanks and praise to the whole man of creation. I and I mind to go through the same thing like I and I forbearance go through. No. Cry blood, Africa, cry blood. Cry blood. Cry blood. Who dare them to say that? Cry. Africa cry, blow. Cry, Africa, cry, blow. Set such foundation upon foundation in foundation. If anyone should trouble, cry. Cry, Africa, cry, blood. No more invasion. Cry, cry, Africa, cry, blood. It's about time African and Africana should come together. Sing the same song. Cry, Africa, cry. The whole wide world feel it. When Africa continent cry, they cry. No trouble, Africa. Cry. Free up Africa, cry. African, cry. Come on, it's about time. African and African should hold hands in honor. Yes, John. It was a team. Cry.
Yeah. Tenastilin. Hail, peace and powers and press. Hail to all the ones within the voices of the earshot of this powerful station, Stylzfm. This is the Metamorphosis. And I'm your host. I'm Dr. Iman Blak. I am here to assist in the transformation. And the transformation is a process. That process occurs within. So I is here to provide thoughts and feelings and to stir emotions and activate the intellect and to ultimately uplift, elevate, extricate, liberate the consciousness that is the I. Yeah, hail all to the ones here in Port Antonio and to the ones in the nearby parishes of St. Thomas and our more extended side, which is going down into St. Anne and Trelawney and across the south side of the island, and of course to the persons who are listening with their various devices on the island, in the Caribbean, and in the wider nation, North America, South America, the Central America, the whole planet. Because of this technological innovation, we're able to communicate across the hundreds and thousands of kilometers. And so Stylzfm is in people's back pockets. Yes, it's on their cell phone. It's there. So the Metamorphosis, bringing you closer to yourself. For many, it's a very frightening experience because the self is a powerful entity. Many persons are afraid to approach the self. But through perseverance and information, we can make that transformation. Information is power. Misinformation is a crippling effect. So we search to provide information, and for one to take in the information, ingest it, digest it, and make it a part of your understanding. Yes, things happening, of course, here and around. In this island, first and foremost, we're still discussing whether we should be celebrating 50 years, or what does the 50 years represent? Is it 50 years of more plantocracy? Has it been 50 years of transformation of the poor? Has it been 50 years of development? And development is a relative term because it's a matter now of who benefits. So when we talk about has Jamaica developed, we have to also ask the question, who has benefited from whatever the activities are that are going to define development? So we're struggling over the song, and we're struggling over everything. We are just make ourselves a kind of contentious people. And within all of that, it's a cultural mix that is powerful. Part of the thing that is becoming significant in these times is the laws. Laws now are becoming things that are going to direct and govern persons' lives. Now, the law that is problematic in my estimation now is the buggery law. There are countries now who are insisting that an island like Jamaica, and other countries who are not open to the gay community and their activities, should be penalized by being prevented from getting loans. And we have to be careful now how we beg and how we sell Jamaica. Because this notion of sell Jamaica and brand Jamaica, and this branding notion as if now we are products and we're no longer persons. We have to watch it, you know. And if there's a serious attempt to remove buggery from the books, buggery is really about people behaving in their own, what they call sexual preferences. So organizations like the J Flag, which is the organization and the umbrella that protects or seeks to protect the rights of persons who define themselves as gay and lesbian and transgender, that whole set of persons. So there's an attempt now to remove the buggery law from the books. I am suggesting that we begin to organize a similar attempt to remove the ganja law from the books. Because what is more significant? The buggery law or the law that says that ganja is a criminal offense? If we're really trying to promote this society into the next 50 years, which is the priority that we should be working on? Should we be struggling to justify a few persons and their lifestyle? Or should we free up an entire nation? I want to think about it seriously, because the people who are protecting and defending the buggery people, they are very strong in their economics. Whenever you hear about two homosexuals who die in our society, it's always presumed that they are killed by people who are haters. But it should be known that within this same community are some of the most jealous persons. There's an intense jealousy in the J Flag community, more intense than in the traditional what we call natural heterosexual communities. And these levels of violence that they practice against each other, especially when they so-called cheat on each other, it usually brings death. Because in that community, it's very difficult to secure a partner. Because people are sort of resenting or, being careful how they expose their sexual orientation. So whenever they find a partner, it's almost like for life. So the same time that partner decides to go somewhere else, it's death. And so some of these actions that are happening, every time they die, it is assumed that it's some hater that killed this person. And the organization gets stronger and a public outcry and a whole heap of protest and gives them more strength to repeal the buggery law. And I'm telling to I, we must stay alert. Because that type of energy brings us into a different moral situation. So which is more essential? Is it the moral or is it illegal? The ganja law is illegal, keeps ganja illegal. But if we think about where we're going with our country, yeah, it's a serious thing. I also want to just use this introduction to say that there are some persons who are in cyberspace who should look at Ustream 961, Ustream Stylzfm 961 for recorded programs of the Metamorphosis. People have been asking where is it they can see previous programs or listen to it. So put that down in your files. It's Ustream Stylzfm 961. And then you can find some of the previous programs and stay with the program. Yes, the Metamorphosis.
Chase those crazy ballets out of town. Chase those crazy ballets out of a town. I and I build the cabin. I and I plant the corn. Didn't my people before me slave for this country? You look me with a scorn, then you heat up all my corn. We're gonna chase those crazy, chase them crazy, chase those crazy ballets out of town. Still a little bit, step, stop, step, till you don't stop, still let up, build your penitentiaries, we build your schools, brainwash education to make us the fools. Hatred you reward for our love, telling us of your God above. We gonna chase those crazy, chase those crazy bumpets, chase those crazy ballets out of a yarn.
Chase those crazy ballets out of town.
Chase them crazy, chase those crazy ballets out the con man, coming with his con plan. We won't take no bribe. We've got to stay alive. We gonna chase those crazy. Chase those.
Yes, greetings again, and hope all the ones have gathered around within them own little space as we pursue another edition of the Metamorphosis. We'll spend a little bit of time exploring subjects and areas that are not normally discussed in the traditional institutions. For example, the church, and when you go to school, and the information that your family pins around in the home. We want to deal with things that are relevant to the population. And when we try to look at things in that context, we have to look at the space in which we live, and the framework, and the type of governance, and whether we want to acknowledge it or not, generally, the history sets the framework for the place in which we live, the history. And the history of this island, particularly the history for the African population, is grounded in the process of the enslavement. The violence and harsh conditions are a framework from which the African experience comes from. So, when we talk about this space that we're into, and how do we make the most out of our being in this time, when we look at a place like the Caribbean, the documents and the research is showing that some of the sickest people in the world, or rather in the Caribbean, live in Jamaica. So we'll ask ourselves now, how is it a country that has all this type of natural foods and some of the best fruits and all sort of high protein and sunshine and quality life, how is it the population is so sick? And the population that I speak to now is a population that has been what we call emancipated now from the plantation. So this emancipated population is being classified as one of the sickest societies in the Caribbean. What is it that attributes and contributes to this type of sickness? And the sickness in the population and our society is not only in the physical. The sickness is also in the psychological. That we even use the word sick to speak of something now that is good. So we have to examine and check ourselves. The plantation has not really been changed. The plantation that the African population has been on from 1655 when the British came, the plantocracy, the structures, the institutions that govern from those days are still here. It is even reflected in the thing that is called the parliament. Because the parliament is symbolic of the Backerman house. Yeah, the big house, way up on top of the hill. So a lot of the things are still in place. And so we're still living on a plantation. And so the behavior of those who govern, similar to those who govern the plantation. And unfortunately, the behavior of the population is still behaving like slaves. Metamorphosis. Are we still slaves? So the question is, at the origin, are we still slaves? This is the question. Are we still slaves? What is the evidence for those who say that we are no longer slaves? What is the proof that we are not slaves? Are we still slaves? Because, if we can't answer that question consciously, it means that we are still slaves. So slavery is a very deep and profound sort of experience. And I'm not so sure if our population, since being released through the process of emancipation, has really sat down to penetrate what really is and was slavery. Sometimes most of the time we're told to forget it. Yeah, forget it. Don't worry about it, because it's gone already. And from it gone already. But what gone already sometimes is just simply waiting up ahead for you to meet it again. So slavery, are we still slaves? And what is the evidence that we are not? So we have to examine what is slavery. And we're going to find that slavery is something that manifests on different levels. And slavery is slavery, no matter what form or shape it may appear. If they agree on that, slavery is slavery, no matter what form or shape it may appear. For our purposes within the reasoning, we're going to say that there's physical slavery at one level. And at that level of slavery, your movements, your capacity to move physically, those movements are restrained. And they're normally restrained by either being tied up or you're being chained. So that is a level of slavery that is very visible and is very obvious. You can do the same thing to animals. You can tie up a dog. The dog movements become limited. Maybe just enough rope for the dog go a couple of feet away, but the dog can't get away. So the dog is a slave. Dog has been trapped. No. That's a very, very visible type of slavery. But there is slavery at a level where it is not really visible. This form of slavery now occurs at a different dimension. It's beyond the physical. And beyond the physical, we begin to talk about the emotional. We begin to talk about the psychological. We begin to talk about the mental. We begin to talk about the spiritual. So all of these dimensions and aspects of consciousness have within it the capacity and the potential to become enslaved. So if those areas are trapped, are enslaved, and you remove the chains of the person's hands and feet, that person may think that now they are free, that they are no longer a slave. But because slavery is a process that can manifest at the level of the mind, then we must now be able to explore ourselves and to find out, are we enslaved mentally, psychologically, emotionally? And then what then are the tools and the weapons that have been used to keep us enslaved? Metamorphosis, exploring, are we still slaves? Yeah, it was there, and you guys were hearing, listening to Jacko as we converse in between. Yeah, we're looking at the whole notion of whether after 50 years of political independence on an island like Jamaica, are we free or are we still slaves? Yeah, man. Are we free people or are we slaves? And if we are slaves, how is it we are slaves yet the chains have come off our hands and our feet? In order to address that now, it means that obviously other parts of our being can be chained. And the part of ourselves that we're not accustomed to being familiar with is the psyche. Yes, it's the mind. It's the powers of our reasoning. It's the intellect. And so we hear that knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. If knowledge is power, the powerful man is never usually a slave. Yes, it is usually the powerful man who has the powerless enslaved. So the man who lacks knowledge is heading towards one of the first stages of slavery. This is slavery now in the mental, and it is more specifically directed now to the intellect. Slavery. So when you lack knowledge, and now when you lack knowledge of your own self, you begin to slip even deeper into some levels of ignorance. You begin to go into the abyss. And once you descend to that level, it means you really lack power because you lack the knowledge that will give you a sense of identity. And if you don't have a sense of identity, you're really powerless. Just about yourself. So many persons who have issues with their identity, a lot of those persons are enslaved. And what is it that enslaves them? It is a thing now that we can call it ideology. It is ideas now that are operating in this dimension. And so ideas can be used to trap and enslave the thought processes of people. So though we see people being released from physical chains, the more deadly form of enslavement is enslavement in the intellect, is the enslavement within the mind. It is the enslavement through ignorance. And the deepest level of ignorance that you can really see this thing at work is when people lack knowledge of their identity. Yeah, man, serious lacking of foundation. And if you lack your identity, a man can tell you that you're anything. And if you accept that you're anything, then you can easily become nothing. So we're looking at the self. And we're looking at the power of knowledge and the fact that lack of knowledge can trap and keep the intellect enslaved. Now, there's normally a contention now between knowledge and belief. And for the majority of the African people who have been enslaved and released, was not really exposed to knowledge. Because knowledge, is something that was beaten out of the Africans. And it was replaced with a set of beliefs. And African culture always had knowledge. It is the knowledge of the Africans that has put science and physics and all these things onto the planet. So lack of knowledge is a deep, deep cause of the enslavement of the black people. And lack of knowledge, it has been replaced by belief systems. And these belief systems are incredulous. These belief systems defy imagination. And people believe that all things are possible because of doctrine. So the enslavement now is being reinforced by doctrine and ideology and belief systems. So we're no longer dependent on knowledge. We are now dependent on beliefs. And beliefs are created, and beliefs are disbelieved. Beliefs become falsified later on. Knowledge remains knowledge. So the identity of one, no. Once you have an issue with identity, you're in a state of slavery. So if I ask you, are you black? And you struggle to answer, it means you're in a state of slavery. Because there is doubt. Once you begin to talk about you don't know and you're a descendant and you're hyphenated, you have some serious problems. That is 1 foot in the slave on the route towards slavery. Now the Christian Bible also helps to confuse the issue of identity. Because through the stories of the creation and henceforth, you get a picture that is just really two kind of people. Jews and Gentiles. And so you're either a Jew or you're a Gentile. And one set of those persons are God's chosen people. So the identity now of the black man becomes obfuscated. The black man don't see the blackness anymore. It becomes a sort of struggle to be identified as one of these religious groups. Jews are Gentiles. So the blackness is the foundation to the liberation of our enslaved minds. When we can embrace the blackness, we're on the road towards removing the shackles that entrap the mind. Slavery has been abolished for economic reasons. But slavery continues for political, psychological, military, and for the whole factor that is that people think that power is theirs. There are people who want to rule the world. There's enough resources for the whole world to have. There are people who are greedy. And so there's a struggle. And those who are oppressed, in order to relieve themselves of that oppression, must first come to terms with who they are. Begin to empower themselves by accepting their own identity. So when black people begin to appreciate love, their blackness, it will be one stage towards coming out of that mental slavery. Metamorphosis. Yeah, Metamorphosis here with Dr. Iman Blak. Looking into the question as to whether we are still slaves. Yes, because we just like we have to ask, are we really independent? Many of us were here when the flag was going up and the excitement was taking place, And then they told us that we were independent. 50 years later, we realized that we are not independent, but we are in dependence. That we owe everybody in the world. And now we must sell Jamaica and sell Jamaica. It's the same way I'm asking too. Have we been removed out of slavery? Is it because we had the process called emancipation, we feel that slavery came to an end? So if we look at it, because for sure, political independence in 1962 has not brought us any closer to economic self-reliance. It has taken us further away from self-reliance in those 50 years. So we see that it has not worked. Emancipation, what was that about? And what has been the result of the emancipation to the population that experienced emancipation? They are the persons who are still enslaved. So it's a very serious thing we're into at this point in time. And we also have to explore this plantation on which we still exist. And why is it we are finding it difficult to realize that we are still slaves? Is it because we have been exposed to money, which is a necessity? It's a necessity. So it is something that at one time was never needed, because on the plantation, the bits of food were provided and the scrapings and the leftovers. So there was no need to have money to go out and buy food. Are we still slaves? What is the condition of slavery? One of the conditions of slavery is that there is usually a master. So there's a power relation, master and slave. And within the context of the Jamaican framework and the Caribbean, and slavery in the last couple hundred years, the master is usually the Caucasian. The master is usually the white man. And the slave have been the Africans by greater proportion. Of course, the Indians were brought into the mix, and so were the Chinese. Those forms of slavery were called indentured slavery. That type of slavery allowed the Indians and the Chinese to maintain their cultural identities. It allowed the Indians and the Chinese to maintain their Indian and Chinese names. So there's still a Mr. Lee, and Mr. Chin, and Mr. Yap. And there is still Mr. Prakashani, and Mr. Vaswani, and there is a Rampu. There are a lot of names that maintain their identity. But within the black population, there is brown, green, white. Yeah, all these are names of black people, Richard, son. William, son. Tom, son. Yeah, Mark, Kenzie. So the enslavement within the identity is a part of the struggle to liberate ourselves. The master-slave relation, has that changed in Jamaica? Do we not call everybody, almost everybody with me, you call them master? How do we do that? We give them a big title. Everybody a big title, to the point where big up is the way to speak. It's really making somebody feel like they are ahead of you, them in charge, them big. Them is the master, and me is the slave. And at the same time, it's a little trick move to sort of make you drop your guard. Yes, and then man will move in on you. So the master-slave relationship, does it exist in Jamaica still? And when we look into the religious institutions, it is where that philosophy now is perpetuated at the greatest level. Because here now, through religion, we are told to accept the master-slave framework. And it's beaten to us every Sunday that we must recognize that we are slaves, and the master now is not the white man, but the master now is the Son of God. And that Son of God now replaces the white man as the master. But he doesn't replace him in the fullness, because he still looks white in his imagery. So you see, something happened. Something happened. And in our switch in this emancipation, there are processes taking place at other levels of the mind. And so we no longer see the necessarily physical white man at the conscious level as the master. But unconsciously, the superior master is a white-skinned person. And so even though the Son of God now, who was supposedly sent to save all these black people, he doesn't look like the black people. He looks like the master. Make you check it out. Are we still slaves? So there's a master and there's a slave-like relationship that governs the plantation. And within that framework of connection, there are some tools that are used to maintain control now of the slaves. One of the important and most critical of the tools is something called fear. F-E-A-R. And once you can drive fear into any person, that person becomes subdued and their will becomes almost inoperable. They begin to lose the power of their will. And that's a very important part of ourselves. We must begin to penetrate our will. We can't take it for granted that this thing is just something up in the air. But they don't teach you about the will in high school, nor junior high or any other type of school. They don't teach you about the will in the church, except that thy will be done and that it is the Lord's will that you must follow. That you must give up your will. So if you give up your will, you know, that is a sign of a slave. You can think about it, you know, how is it one can still be a slave and be walking around and driving in a car? How can one still be a slave and flying on an aeroplane? Yeah, you can still be a slave. Because the plantation could also have grown bigger. It's no longer just in the context of an island. The plantation also includes North America. So it's a giant plantation. The whole world. We have been tricked with this globalization word. The whole world has become one plantation. Yes, it's a giant plantation. And the methods of control and governing the plantation remains the same. So you see the idea of fear? In order to maintain control of the slave, you have to drive fear into the slave. And so for the African population, when the white man them couldn't sleep at night because we were burning down the plantation and plotting and, you know, plotting revolution and killing off the cattle And the white man was having a hard time sleeping at night. Because every time him go to in bed, we outside a plan revolt. And that happened for decades. Until the white man decides to look, we can't live like this anymore. We need our night rest. We have to find a way to make these Africans be cool. We'll find a way to calm down their aggressive souls. We'll find a way to make them afraid of something. And if we can get them to be afraid of something, especially when night comes, then we can sleep. And what do you think it was that was organized and presented and forced upon black people? And you are forced to become afraid of this entity. The fear that controls nearly 99% of black people in the Western world is the fear of God. And so the white man devised that strategy to drive the fear of God into black people. And when that fear was driven in, and when night come, the white man could rest. Because now we were afraid, because God was watching. Metamorphosis.
Strong meditations get to my head. Without guitar, under our favorite tree, and your inspiration living in me. I play and play, and sing, releasing the inspiration within. Written that is a song, yeah, for everyone. A song, your song, yeah, and I song, Skippy Boo, and Jaja song, the Almighty. A song, beautiful ones, your song, yeah, tell them. I wanted to know. Ooh, yeah. Just like the rhythm, oh yeah, and some, yeah, little meaning, but always it will remain a song. Maybe a little too long, or maybe a little too short, but a song, yeah, from my heart. A song, your song, yeah, and I song, Skippy Boo, and Jaja song, the Almighty. A song, beautiful ones, your song, yeah, tell them. I song, I want you to know, and Jaja song, ooh, yeah.
Yeah, they tell us that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. I question that seriously. That the fear of Lord God is the beginning of our enslavement. That is the beginning of our mental and spiritual enslavement. The fear of Lord God. We left Africa we were in Africa without any fears of any Lord God. We're living our lives as African people on the continent, building cultures and civilizations without any fear of Lord God. And wisdom was in abundance right across the African continent. So how now the fear of the Lord can become the beginning of wisdom? We could examine the thing, freely. We could examine this thing because here songs are singing about emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, and everybody's saying it and shaking their head. But what is this mental slavery? What is the mental slavery? The mental slavery is a condition that traps the energy, that turns the imagination into a little zoo. All sorts of wild things run around in the imagination rather than being creative and being powerful. The enslaved mind spends a lot of time in this phase that we call dream. And they are always dreaming. They never really have visions. It's such a subtle difference. Because dreaming doesn't necessarily have any base in conscious reality. But a vision tends to have a methodology that leads you to a practical result. Dreams are always looking at the end result. Dreams don't speak about the steps to the conclusion. So, a lot of the black people are dreaming. And they all have dreams. They are lacking in vision. And to have vision, you have to exercise a faculty that is called visualization. It's a process. Visualization is a real activity that you bring to the conscious mind, the images of the things that you're speaking about or what you're going to do. So for example, you have an appointment. You're going to meet somebody at 10 o'clock upstairs, a building, whatever. You can sit the day before and visualize yourself traveling to the place, getting there, going up the steps, actually sitting in front of the person, and you begin to visualize what the interview could look like. That is not dreaming. That is preparation to visualization. A lot of people are dreaming. Yeah, man, and you have to wake up out of that dream and come to the consciousness where the eye can visualize and transform the thoughts into practicality and transform yourself from a mental slave to a person who has free will and control over their own thoughts. Metamorphosis. I word, sound, and power.
Time to
Metamorphosis continues. We are now into Africa, in World Affairs, our story. And again, the song that you hear that leads into this section is called Historian by the brethren called Maragini. Maragini is a yard man, you know. Right now he's in the US performing and so forth, but he's hardly known in Jamaica. International world-class drummer. One of our listeners, 13 years old, yes, link me and tell me same like the song, and now a follower of the Metamorphosis, 13 years old. Serious. Make me if you say, check me even more with me, I say no. Because 13 is a youthful youth, and him say, you know, this is part of his education now. So keep Africa in the forefront. And as much as the theme song speak about Egypt and the pyramids, sometimes we forget that Africa is more than Egypt and Ethiopia. And sometimes we forget that the pyramids there are many, many pyramids also in the Sudan. But in this look now, I want to look at two of the deserts that are in Africa. The deserts. One is called the Kalahari. One is called the Sahara. And we need to understand how we set up. It is our continent, so we need to see how it's set up and the vastness of it. And the fact that it's not just about a place where, quote-unquote, slaves came from. We're talking about the center of the earth and its resources. First, the Sahara. Sahara is more towards the northern section of Africa. But the way it is today, people see it as a desert. But you know, the research and the geological studies show that thousands of years ago, the Sahara was an ocean. That could be very shocking. To have an ocean in that part of Africa, it would create a sort of ability for the Africans to link by sea from west to east. Yeah, we have to look at how the thing set up and what preceded, because our view of Africa is strictly from the Europeans, what they saw and how they chose to tell us what they saw. But there are a lot of things that are there we are seeing for ourselves. We can begin to look into, make our own analysis and define what it was like. So we can see an ocean there. So it means that Africans have understood sailing, understand marine life. We're not talking about the Atlantic Ocean now, you know, we're talking about inside and within the continent. That there's an ocean called Sahara. And through time and certain effects, this place is now a desert. Very, very radical change that. Is it totally an act of nature, or is it interference by certain human forces? The Sahara, mighty desert in Africa. Then there's even a greater desert in the southern section called the Kalahari. Now you see the Kalahari, there are some people in there. The Europeans call them Bushmen. But they're really the San people, S-A-N. What is interesting for us to know is that as much as we connect to Egypt for black identity through the Bible, the San people have a history that takes them back 20,000 years. So we have to reconcile now, where are these people while the things were taking place in Egypt? Yeah, that whole Moses struggle and God and the people, them, and that whole Yahweh thing and Red Sea. How do we fix people like the San people within that story? Because certainly 20,000 years ago, there's black culture within this region of Africa. So what we need to do is begin to put the information together and reconstruct our story. Yeah, it's only I and I can do that. We have histories, we have stories of people in Africa whose time goes back 20,000 years, 40,000 years. So how then can we lock ourselves in a story that gives the earth 6,000 years? Signs of schizophrenia, madness, insanity to Christianity. Yeah, metamorphosis.
Mama ku, mama sama, mama kosa, mama ku, mama sama, mama kosa, mama ku, mama sama, mama kosa, mama ku, mama sama, mama kosa. Sumanye. Mosoma. Tanga digo, ombusa tanga, nesa makosa. Anumuna, sisi au, yasa makosa. Amuna yeye, koma, samakosa. Tanga, umbusa tanga, nesa makosa. Nika so. Mama ko, mama sama, makosa. 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 Makosa, bata somos tú. Yo sé, bata yo sé, makosa. Bana rokarona ye, ewa, se bala makosa. Bana. Salanga makosa. Modele au Cameroun, Wende, Akia. Ndanga money.
Yes, sound of Manu Dibango, Makosa. Well, in the studio with Iman now is the man Makonnen. Makonnen has entered the metamorphosis. So put a little bit more energy into the reasoning. El Makonnen, give thanks for the presence again.
Greetings, my brother. Greetings.
So they are passing through the planet again.
Yes, I.
Seeing.
True.
Yeah, we're here into Africa and world affairs, and speaking about the importance of Africa every time, because there seems to be an attempt, I think particularly since the 1990s in particular, I'm going to call it a date, when there has seemed to be a program to de-emphasize the importance of Africa and African identity, and to begin to create this imagery that there is this one world identity and we are all in this one thing together, this one village, this one love, this, yeah? So, what do you think? You think it's important that we keep Africa in the front, or we can just make it go on because that's the way it is?
No, it is of absolute import that we maintain vigilance in relationship to the European desire to place Africa within the deck of cards. Africa must be standing out and outstanding so that all of her children scattered abroad as a consequence of the great diaspora can know that Mama Africa remains strong and is awaiting her creators.
You know that within the time doing Makonnen, that we have been put into this thing called globalization, this thing. This word never existed in the 1980s. This word wasn't about in the 70s. This word was brought onto the scene in the 90s. And to I, much explanation has been given to us. We just hear, so now we're in a globalized world, and we globalize, and we are all just humans now. Identity of being African, them say, is minimal.
Look, globalization, yes, but the European concept of globalization is globalization within the maintenance of a status quo for specific countries and races, so that when we talk about globalization, we're not actually saying globalization within an egalitarian context. What we're talking about is the top of the pile and the bottom of the pile globalization. So if we are to accept globalization from the European perspective, then Africa is not going to be the shining star that we know that it is.
Yeah, so we're questioning, we're making a linkage now between this modern dispensation called globalization and how it connect to our either holding on stronger to our African identity or totally giving it up. And a lot of people, it's being noticed, are giving up the identity of being African, compromising for something that is lesser. For example, the people who are engaged in bleaching.
Yes.
Is that to say that the people in Africa don't bleach, you know? So what really going on?
Well, you see,
what is African?
The same concept of globalization, you know. The European will not give up the Eurocentric image of himself under any circumstances. So he will say globalization. Whereas the other races will have to give up something in order to enter this globalized village.
Yes.
This concept. What is happening now is that Europe is actually pushing another world conquest. But this time, because we have to accept that they conquered the world through the Bible and the gun. That was the first conquest.
Yes.
Now, since we are in the age of technology, you're pressing a button and you reach around the entire world. They are using technology to create this concept of the global village. But they must be masters also in this global village.
There were still slaves in the village and masters.
Well, that doesn't change, you know.
That don't change it?
Because right now I am very sure that they are looking at India and China. China more specifically, very, very suspiciously. They also know that the Japanese are out there, and the Japanese are not a very easy people within the same global village. So they are attempting to use psychology now to control all races within the village. The European, you know, Iman, the European is a very special person.
Very sly, I think.
He has a need to rule the world. The Indian never manifested that desire. The Indian was satisfied to rule the Indian people within their borders. The Chinese, in fact, were more than satisfied with running their country to the extent that they built the Great Wall of China
to block out people.
To block out the foreigner from coming in. They didn't want to go out there to rule the foreigners. They had enough in terms of handling the welfare of their people. So also the Africans. But the European now, coming out of the philosophy of people like Socrates, Plato, these guys sat down, took our philosophy, that is the African philosophy that they learned at the university in Egypt, at Alexandria. They learned it also in South Africa from the universities at Gen and Timbuktu. They gathered all of this information also from China and from India, sat down and they also got it from the Jews. They sat down and they created a philosophy that aimed them in the manner of a slingshot at the world. They, instead of wishing to develop their society, decided that they must rule the world. And yes, and that is the problem that we are facing today. It started when they first conceived of the idea of empire. Remember now, you know, long before Europe conceived of empire, there were empires and emperors. Look at Egypt. Egypt was a vast empire. They built huge monumental structures that even today, 10,000 years later, still stand. But they never had to dominate the entire world. While they were building these structures, they were focusing and concentrating on their people within a particular geographical context. If a European was able to get into Egypt, they allowed him into the great libraries. They allowed him to expand his horizon of knowledge.
I think that's what has also led to our downfall. Because we let these people in with our kindness, and they come in and rob our stuff. Call it plagiarizing. They rob everything out of us.
Plagiarizing and playing thieving.
And playing thieving.
Yes.
So that those characteristics of I, as African people, have been very welcoming and open. The European took serious advantage of that?
Well, I tell you this. The African, like the Indian, never really believed that this pale-skinned man had come to their country to rule them, you know. They were welcomed with open arms. And we still do it. Because that is how we are. Now, we have to be careful though, you know, because it is very, very important for us to stop.
Yeah.
Critical.
Critical. Metamorphosis. Stylzfm.
If you're ready, make we do it. And if you're ready, make we do it. Make we do it for Jah. Make we do it Rastafari. Make we do it the roots and culture. Make we do it. And if you're ready, make we do it. Make we do it and make we do it. Make we do it and make we do it. Make we do it. Make we do it. Every nation have to 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 do it. Make them do it, yeah, make them do it. Make them do it, yeah, make them do it. Do it for Jah. Rastafari. Roots and culture. Do it for Jah. Rastafari. I make we do it, I make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. And if you're ready, 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 make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. I make we do it for Jah. Jah Rastafari. 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 If you're ready, make we do it. And if you're ready, make we do it. And if you're ready, make we do it. And if you're ready, make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. Make we do it for Jah. Jah Rastafari. Roots and culture. I make we do it, I make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. Rastafari. Rastafari.
Yeah, the Metamorphosis here. Hear this.
Stylzfm 96.1.
Zion train is coming our way. The Zion train is coming our way.
Yeah, the Zion train that I want to speak about. It's a Zion train restaurant. Yes, it's in the Musgrave Market in the back. It's Monday to Saturday. Good food, chunks, vegetable, soups. Yes, I endorse in this particular site. Personally, I eat there. Sister Maureen is in charge of the place. It's Zion Train restaurant in the back of the Musgrave Market, culturally grounded.
Which man can save his brother's soul?
So the prices are cheap, from $150 up. So visit Zion Train restaurant in the Musgrave Market. Sister Maureen, take your order. Yes, endorsed by the Metamorphosis.
There's always a way. Where there's a will, there's always a way. Soul train is coming our way. Zion train is coming our way. 2,000 years of history. Could not be wiped away so easily. Very superstitious writings on the wall. Very superstitious letters about to fall. 13-month-old baby broke the looking glass. 7 years of bad luck. You put things in your past. When you believe in things that you don't understand, and you suffer. Superstition ain't the way. Ooh, very superstitious. Wash your face and hands. Let me go the problem.
Yeah, we're into the deconstruction section where we examine mythologies, fables, nursery rhymes, all of these devices of English language that inform us and oftentimes confuse us because we lack the comprehension skills to interpret the meaning behind these words. So the initial question at the top of the program is, are we still slaves? And we have identified that one of the major ways of maintaining a slave is through the process of maintaining fear. So when you can drive fear in an individual, you're on the way to turning that person into a sort of zombie type of robot that we can call a slave. So the ideology, as I said earlier, is where a lot of the things are planted that traps the imagination and keeps the mind enslaved. Fear. What is I'm saying that one of the greatest fear, Makonnen, may I say, one of the greatest fears that dominate the consciousness of black people in general and Christians in particular is the fear of God. No doubt about it. Along with the fear of God is also the fear of the devil. These are two important entities in Christendom to maintain slavery. And there are two places that people tend to want to aspire for. One place, everybody say they want to go to heaven, and people are afraid to go to hell. So these fears, Makonnen, and these places, in the basis in reality,
Very, very much so. There is a basis in reality for the concept of heaven and the concept of hell.
What is it? What is this heaven and hell?
Well, heaven is the place that the European has constructed that will accommodate himself and those persons who he has elevated to his status, honorary or otherwise. Hell is the place that will accommodate all persons who do not subscribe to this particular European concept called Christianity.
That's on our way.
Well, but that is the reality. Now, once you go through the brainwashing process that converts you to Christianity, and you are baptized in the name of Jesus,
all the blood thing there, you know.
You are taught how to fear this loving God.
Oh, can you? So why should you fear something that love you?
Well, it is it is clearly not consistent with reality.
What kind of love is that then?
But remember, we're talking about mythology, you know.
Mythology.
Yes.
All right.
So you see, on the one hand, they talk about the great love that Jesus has for us, to the extent that they equate the love of Jesus with the love for children.
What a thing.
I remember growing up, and one of the most beautiful songs that they taught us was Jesus loved the little children, all the children of the world. No, that was in fact the basis of the creation of that global village, you know.
Yeah.
Because you see, in the business of conquest, what you want to do is to proselytize your doctrine to the whole world. And that is the concept that Christianity has used to engulf literally as many persons as possible. Solicit them to subscribe to being afraid of a God that loved them so much.
You know that at the realm of psychology, those are the elements of tremendous illness.
Ah. So are you suggesting that those persons who have subscribed to this loving God of whom they are afraid are deranged?
No, that's a very I think that they're, put it this way, there are some levels of dis-ease yeah, in the mentals, and at these levels of dis-ease and dissonance, the people can be classified sometimes as psychotic.
Well,
sometimes initially we call them neurotics, meaning they suffer from great anxieties. Always anxious because of this uncertainty, because of the fear that governs them. And some take anxiety to the level of being neurotic. And then they move from being neurotic to psychotic.
Yes.
You see the psychotic now? And so the difference between the neurotic and the psychotic is that the neurotic builds some castles in the air, dreaming.
Yes.
But is the psychotic that tries to live in them?
Well, I tell you something now. You see what has happened to the black man in being taken from Africa, brought into the Caribbean, brainwashed, and then released into the Caribbean, told that you are free, given this concept of God, the man God called Jesus.
Yeah.
And then, if you don't serve him properly,
I tell you,
he's going to become so angry,
vexed,
that he's going to cast you into hellfire.
I tell you.
Where you are going to burn for 1,000 years.
Yo! Heat!
So,
tell the place.
Because of this great fire,
aye,
what you have to do is
already.
now to turn around
And face the snow.
after 400 years of slavery under the same white man God.
Right.
You are now in fear of this 1,000 years of fire.
Oh.
You must now turn around and praise the same God that enslaved you. Otherwise, you're going to go to hell.
Yes, sir.
But there is danger, you know, because what is going to happen in the white man heaven?
Yeah, or you think it's going to look?
Well, I...
How you think it's going to look? We're going to look tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to look tonight. The sounds of Robert Nesta Marley. This one is called Brainwashing. And that's what we are also engaging in the discussion here. The reasoning, I and Makonnen in the Stylzfm studio. In the Metamorphosis, where the change begins in you. Yeah, we're saying that we've been given these two dimensional spaces, heaven and hell. And it's in our imagination that we must generate the images of this place, because as Makonnen and I was telling you a while ago, it's a place where nobody can go in and nobody comes out. That's how I go. And nobody can come out once them go in, something like that. We soon work it out. But paralysis can set in within the mentality, and that can also lead to a form of enslavement. Because now you will have to become dependent. Yeah. Once you have a paralysis, it means the thing not working. Something else must begin to substitute for it. And if we surrender our will and our intellect, for sure, it shall be replaced by somebody and something else. So, Makonnen, we just talk about this concept that the white man has created about heaven and hell and how he has imposed it upon I, and at the same time, in the practical world, we are not really living anywhere close to anything named heaven, when he in his living is not close to anything called hell.
Well said. Very, very well said. We, the black peoples of the world, our life and lifestyle, and it don't matter where you find us, but let us talk of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Down here in the Caribbean, the average black man is living a life that is closely approximate to the hell that the Christian religion proselytizes. Whereas the European down here in the Caribbean is living in a totally different circumstance.
All right, how would you describe, even in greater details, how does the life of the black man resemble living into hell? Why would you say, what are the indicators that he is living in hell?
I want to be very base. I'm going to break this thing down, right down to the ground, so that if there is somebody out there hearing this, they will understand immediately my answer to your question. Look, the average white man sitting down to eat, he's eating the breast, the leg, and the thigh of the chicken. The black man eating chicken back, making stew out of it, enjoying what the white man will not eat. Instead of eating the chicken back, they export it wholesale into the Caribbean, and we make a meal of it. Delicacy, shamelessly eating what he refuses to eat. Now there are those who are going to say, but why you go so low? My question to them is, why have you accepted that that should be your meal? That which the European refuses to eat. Pack it up into cartons and crates and send it down here. There are many other examples, but what I have done is I have gone straight to the bottom of the pile and say, let us offer the European some chicken back. In the heaven where he lives, he will absolutely refuse to eat it.
So what about now the people who will talk about this soul, that in heaven it's really their souls that will be saved? Because, that impose on us now, this thing that we all have a thing called a soul. All African people have a soul. The white man don't say that him have a soul, But him say all black people have a soul, and we must try to save it. As a motherfucker tell us that don't worry about being brutalized physically, because your physical is not important. Him say what is the most important part of you is your soul. And so you must be able to preserve that soul by obeying these moral laws established again by the Bible. So how we can really get out of that?
Well, the truth is that we have been sold down the line in connection with the soul that they're talking about.
Yeah, we have been sold.
Definitely, we have been sold. And then we have bought it to the extent that the countries of the Caribbean and in the African world, when you observe their practice of Christianity, it is much, much more soul searching than even the European. The European is able to practice Christianity with little or no emotion.
Well,
if you walk into a European church in a European country, even America, you know, when they are singing and praising Jesus, it is very straight-laced, straight up.
No rhythm into it.
No rhythm, no emotions. But if you walk into the black man church,
I tell you,
you're going to get up and move.
I tell you.
You feel it to your soul. We have
so we have a soul and they don't have a soul. It's the same thing going on in the churches. And when you go to them churches, it's them just live it and going through the motion.
Iman.
It looks like they are lacking soul. And they are the ones who should be afraid of going to hell.
But you see, the truth is, they know that there's not no hell, you know.
No hell at all. Eh?
They know that
yeah.
This is the methodology and the mechanism by which they retain control over us. And as long as you subscribe to the doctrine of Christianity, you have been sold and you have bought it. And the soul that they talk about is lost.
Captured
And gone.
Really capture, you know.
And I recall in the history books that what they said they were going to do, they were going to Christianize and colonize the savages. And it seems as if as long as you subscribe to that religion, they have succeeded.
And you see that religion now? That same religion that most of the people in this Western world, black people, have been embraced. It is so controlling, and this heaven and hell concept is so deep that the idea of death becomes a panic. And perhaps because we have seen so much death around us from coming through the passage and the millions that were murdered, that we reach a point where we just can't deal with dying anymore. But at the same time, they tell us the only way we can get into heaven is by dying. It creates another psychological condition, another form of dis-ease in the mentality. And the death story, the Christian Bible tells us about how does one now overcome death? Because you see, death is given a sort of imagery of a finality. But the doctrine tells us about this one man now who overpower death. So we are very impressed with this one man, you know, because he's 2 weeks afraid of it already. And because we have been traumatized by the barbarity of the European experience, where we see people here just chop off in front of it. Enough hand just chop off, and we see a type of barbarity that shocks the nervous system. That death really becomes something that it works against us. So there's a story now in the Bible that tries to show us that as much as we are afraid of death, and as much as death is powerful, there is this one man who has the power to not only overcome death, but to also make other people who are dead come back to life. You know the story of Lazarus?
Yes.
You know, so as a youth, that story had a serious impact on my brain, you know.
I can imagine.
Because hear this now. Them say Lazarus died and was put in a grave. And we know that when people dead and go in a grave, that's it.
Well, yes.
Don't you imagine now, here comes this almighty Son of God. So you see, that's why we have to rate him, you know. That's why we have to elevate this God imagery now, this Jesus imagery. Because he's cast into a sort of hero role when we do so-called magical things. And he goes and he, as according to the story, he takes Lazarus and he raises him up out of the grave. And we in our minds see a man taking up a dead man and making him walk again. I am thinking now that it's when we read the literature properly, the grave doesn't necessarily mean a place where the dead is, you know. And Lazarus could also have been dead mentally. And here it is that Jesus was able to resurrect the mentality of a man and make him live again. Metaphor. You know the man who in Port Antonio used to walk the streets and live in the rubbish pan?
Yes.
Iman thinks the eye have the power, you know, for go out there and raise some of them money out of the grave, you know.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Serious thing. So we have to read and begin to reread and reinterpret and take off some of that Starboy imagery that we put on Jesus. Yes, because we have him up as a hero to the point wherein the women love Jesus more than how them love them husband. And they had a mention about loving Jesus more than how you love little children. So at that rate, we are really become slaves to Jesus.
Slave to the myth that a man, a European man, is God. And we also need to be careful, you know, because remember, this story about dying and going to heaven, this story about the terrible and dreadful consequences of a life of sin and going to hell, this has been going on for the past 2,000 years. And yet, it is as fresh now as it was before the slave ship. And these same people who told us the story then murdered, robbed, raped, and pillaged the African people in the interim. And when they were through with doing that, they continued to tell us the story of the love of Jesus. Where was the love of Jesus when they were performing this brutality?
Yeah, we wonder.
And now that that is over, they are selling us this same Jesus who never intervened with this great love during the process of slavery.
Maybe they would say that was just God's will. I remember now, you know. It's the sun that working. So maybe the will of God know why the love of Jesus never interfere.
Well, it is time for the will of the black people to rise up and extricate ourselves from this particular myth.
Serious thing.
If indeed we need myths, then we should seek to uncover, discover, or create our own myths.
Mythologies.
Yes.
Rastafari, no. Makonnen, Iman Blak in the studio.
Be still, all you liars and traitors, and know that the Lord is God. Ja, Rastafari. I hear the heathen say Rasta Selassie is dead. How can the body function? Tell me if it has no way. Ananiah Bingi, one love, 12 tribe of Israel. The same goes proverbially, all is well that is well. Go away, death go away, cause of it, oh, oh. Go away, death go away. I heard the emperor say, who is this woman, what does she want? Lion of Judah, no, hear me chant. Go away, death go away, cause of it, oh. Go away, death go away, cause of it. Listen to a father, attend to no understanding, yeah. He gave us the true doctrine, forsake not his teachings. The way of the wicked is jumbled.
Yes, Iman Blak here in studio with Itafari Makonnen, and we are exploring the mythologies that we don't get a chance to look into often because we get it as very, very young children, and later on we don't have the time to explore because it don't really make you make no money. There's no direct link between knowing and unknowing and making money, but that's not true. We can get to that at a later date still. But we think knowledge is power. Information is power. And so if you have the information, you can't say you don't know because you have the information. What you want to do now is begin to apply thought. Yes, work it over. Look at it from this angle. Look at it from the other angle. Look at it from underneath. Look at it from above. Look at the same thing from sideways. Yeah. Look all over your shoulder and look upon it. Different perspectives to give you different angles that you can come to a sort of overstanding within thy own self. So the heaven and hell is a serious dichotomy. The God and the devil is another dichotomy. Love and hate. All of these things have been set up. And then they tell us that we must choose one or the other. Virgin, you know, so one day I did on a subway, you know, in New York City. And for the first time in my life, I'm going to hear a man make a statement about a thing, you know. I come down on the subway, you know, and reach in the like 125th Street area, and late at night, train almost empty, and the door open, and a Hispanic tumbling on them waters, and that's something. Made us him drunk. And he was coming and he was throw himself in the train, and the train door lock and the train move off. And made the virgin say, oh, you see me? Oh, I start telling me a praise to know, you know, because everything me asking for me get, you know. Oh, done with God, you know. And I said to myself, what am I really? I say, yeah, man. And him did a mumble to himself, and I said, wait. So, maybe we have checked the wrong force so the poor we needed.
well, look here. You see, because this business of Satan and Christ are European constructs. If you reject one, you automatically reject the other, you know.
Wait, say it again.
Yeah. If you both of them are European constructs that depend on each other for existence. If there is no Satan, there is no European God, you know.
Yeah.
And if there is no European God, there is no Satan. You cannot remove one from the picture without
the whole thing fall down.
Yeah, it must fall down.
Yeah.
Because according to the doctrine, Satan can never rule. He's only there as antithesis. A
provoking
exactly.
Entity.
So if you defeat Jesus, you can never elevate this Satan to the position of Jesus. If you take Satan out of the picture, Jesus don't have no work for do.
Boy, I tell you, hey, I want them think about it, you know. It's something where the man them set up, you know, like a seesaw. You know, you have two ends and you go up and down, and if you take off one half, the thing can't keep moving, it just stuck on one end.
No, because remember now, you know, if there is no Satan, there is no evil force.
At all.
Then man would not have that nature that turn to evil, because Satan don't exist. So what then would you have a need for a Jesus?
So the business of the mash up, you know?
Totally.
Oh, man, I tell you.
But you see, for the I and I, it is not a hard concept to grasp.
Yeah.
But you see, for the average black man who has suffered brainwashing for 400 years, he cannot escape. There is no way for him to immediately understand the relationship between Jesus and Satan and heaven and hell. It is those concepts, as the I say, that has held us in this bonded structure from which there is apparently no escape unless by the grace of His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor, you are able to declare that the black man is God.
Is the Almighty.
And Selassie live.
Rastafari.
Yes, I.
There's too many of you cry. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you die. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today.
Yeah, we're moving into news, Afrocentric news on views on NEWS. And of course, I want to use this section to also start to hail some people out there in Stylzland, locally and internationally. I want to hail up Jah Child, who is looking at us live out of her space in North America. I also want to hail, not only Jah Child, I want to hail Jah daughter. All these daughters are recognizing the powers of Jah. Yes. A lot of our daughters are moving away from that Christian thing, recognizing the powers of Jah. So Jah Child, yes, give thanks and congratulations on that recent activity of yours. World of news. Syria is on the front line. And Assad is on the way down. And the Iranians have decided that if you threaten them, they're going to close the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz is a pathway that carries about a fifth of the world's oil supply. And if you shut that down, because the Iranians have decided to continue building their nuclear research, and the Americans and the Europeans have insisted that they cannot enter that club because they have the privilege to define who can join the nuclear club. The Iranians just say you can't tell what to do. And of course, the Americans don't see the Iranians as white people. And the Iranians don't see themselves as white people. In the same way, the Chinese don't see themselves as whites. And the Americans don't see them as white. So the racial factor remains consistent. So will there be a war? And who will it benefit to have the Syrian government replaced? Because the Americans seem to insist that they are the force that defines which government should rule which country. Or look, Macon, are we should just allow America to be the world leader and define whether this government is worthy or not? And where do they really get so much moral authority?
Well, the authority that they have, I would want to differ with the Iman.
All right.
It's not moral.
At all.
No, it is not. It is immoral. Authority that they are using through might, through force of might. What they have is the said bomb that they do not wish for Iran to get. What they have is this colossus of immorality that they are using to say, as you say, it is a club of nuclear force. Quite a few nations have gotten in there through the back door. And when they exploded their atomic bomb, America had to let them in.
So it's a bullet thing, you know?
It's a bullet thing.
Yeah.
Now, what the Europeans have decided is that Allah and his prophet Muhammad must never, under any circumstances, have the bomb.
At all.
So that anyhow these Muslim people get that bomb, the European world will be in very, very serious trouble.
So it's really about power then?
It is absolutely about power.
So,
and keeping the Arabian Peninsula under the influence of the Samson solution as prescribed by Israel. Israel is a nuclear power.
Imagine that.
And what America and the rest of the European world is saying, under no circumstances must Israel be vulnerable. So no Arab country is to have
any weapons
that bomb
that could threaten Israel.
Yes. So you see this war, that is this undeclared war against the Arab world.
Yes.
Because the Arab world knows that America is not on their side, you know.
You know the Arab world call America the great Satan?
But America is the great Satan.
You see me now, personally, here we differ a little bit now, you know.
Yes.
You see Satan, but I don't really know. I know S-A-Y-S-A, you know. And T-A-N is Tan. So
yes.
you see Satan.
Satan.
S-A-T-A-N.
Yes, yes.
Iman see Satan as a different force. I see Satan as a force of indifference. And I see the force of evil as a devil.
Yes.
So I see three entities. I see good, evil, and indifference.
Yes.
Yeah, and within that context now, it's like I must begin to maybe even separate Satan from the devil. I recognize that. Well, Satan is the prince of darkness. And now that we know that darkness is not evil, it means that there's a set of royalty that governs darkness. That then there's a king, there's a queen, there's a prince, there's an emperor. And we will have a different respect now for darkness.
Yes.
That's how we really look upon it. So, this is our news section. And so we deal with news because all things are connected. We started with Syria. And we're going to the United States. And we're going to come locally to speak of events that are happening right here on our shores. So you say, World War? World War III coming up?
No, you see, if indeed there is a world war, it is going to be World War I. The other two were
not world wars.
Were European tribal wars.
Serious thing.
But there is no need for a world war coming out of the destruction of Syria. Syria will simply be destroyed by America.
Yes.
Because America has the wherewithal to do that.
All right. So let us assume, for historical and developmental reasons, that they have overpowered Syria. Because they really have no military backing. And the next vision now is to overpower Iran.
I believe, you see, that somewhere in this domino destruction of the Arab nations in the Middle East, there is a point when Arabia will take it no more.
Well, so you mean even though Saudi Arabia has been colonized by America, them can get a point where them just the strength of being a Muslim will rise up?
This is what I'm saying, because remember now, you know, in the history of the struggle between Europe and Arabia, it is not given that Europe has always won. So they cannot, in dealing with historical reality, conceive that they will always win. There is a point when the Arab world will simply overpower whatever invading forces are present in Arabia. I do not for a moment believe that all the Arab dominoes are going to fall, and then Europe is going to stand supreme in that land.
So the resistance, you think, will be strong enough to back off Europe?
Listen, you see,
we can't find that resistance in black people now. You see
I was about to get right to the point.
All right, we'll get to the point.
The Arab
Yeah, go on.
The Arab has this God called Allah, this religion called Islam, and it is Islam that has always gone up against Christianity.
Yeah.
And one, they do not believe that they are going to lose. Yes, they are losing and they have been losing, but there is a point when in their mind, Allah is going to intervene.
So therefore, in the minds of I and I, His Imperial Majesty,
Selassie, the thing is this, the black people have not as yet come to realize that until the day culturally we all together subscribe to the God of our salvation, because the God of European salvation can never be the God of our salvation. In that regard, Rastafari is the leading force, and until the people come to praise His Imperial Majesty, our Lord and Savior, then we will not have the force that the Arabs
and other groups
have. Yes.
Metamorphosis.
When I feel the strain, oh yeah. When you are down and out, running from north to south, what more can you do? Why must I live this?
Yeah, some hip tunes for you.
Stylzfm 96.1.
You got to know who you are. You got to know what you're for. Yeah. Black am I, why should I stray? My roots and my culture are so me a go stay. Black am I, like who must I say? Martin Luther King or Marcus Garvey. Black am I, why should I stray? My roots and my culture are so me
Metamorphosis going into Skin Deep. Skin Deep. This section of the program is where we look into the skin and the depth of the skin. When we're young, we hear that skin is nothing, and I think that it's just skin deep. But just skin deep means very deep, because the skin is deep. Yeah, we might look at it and it look as though we can't even see how it constructs, but it is deep. And in the depth of the skin rests the pigment. And it's the pigment that I want to speak of a bit, because again, we don't get a chance to discuss ourselves. What is it? What is this property that we are all filled of? This thing called pigment. Of course, you know that we have paints that have the property of pigments in them. The pigment that we're talking about now is the pigment that is in nature. And the first kind of pigment that we can look at is the pigment in the green plants. This pigment is called chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is what the plants use to combine sunlight with water to create this wonderful property called oxygen. So we see that the pigment is an important property. And the pigment in the plants is what keeps life going. Within the plants, allow the plant to feed itself. So within the plant kingdom, there are plants that can feed themselves. And within the plant kingdom, there are plants that are parasites. The plants that can feed themselves have pigment in their skin. Yes, and pigment in their bodies. The pigment in the skin and the body, as I said, is chlorophyll. Now, you see, black people also have pigment in their skin, just like the green plant. But this pigment is not called chlorophyll, because this pigment now operates at a higher level of frequency. This pigment is called melanin. So the black people with their melanin and the green plants with their chlorophyll are linked to the sun. It's a cycle. And so the energy flows from the sun through the green plants into the black people, where we store that energy in our skin. So you see, once we begin to recognize the linkages, that we are connected to the system, to the solar system, that we are connected to the cosmos, we begin to have a greater respect for our skin. Hey, Makonnen, you know, so when people talk about Jesus, they don't talk about his skin. So we don't know what kind of skin Jesus did have. So if you don't know what type of skin you is, you know, your identity becomes difficult to ascertain.
That is well said.
So, why Christianity don't talk about the nature of the skin? Because we always want to know about Jesus. And if he is the Son of God, then whatever skin he has, that ought to be the same skin that his father has, because he's his father.
Yes, but Christianity is not so much concerned with the skin texture, you know.
So skin don't have no power in it?
No. The concept is that you must accept that Jesus is white and that Jesus is European, and that is the only possible hope of salvation. So that anything else is anathema and will lead to destruction.
Oh, that sounds frightening.
But that is what they preach. That in fact, the very idea of questioning the race of Jesus, questioning his color, is out of order as far as they are concerned. What they have done, is they have put this image in front of us. An image that goes against historical authenticity. Because we know where Palestine is. And we know that that is not the land of the European. But what they have put is a long hair, blonde hair, blue eye, white boy, and said that this is God.
The Savior.
Our Savior, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
What a travesty.
It's not really that Christianity is not concerned about the skin. What they are saying is, there is the picture. Make your assumptions, but don't make any assumptions outside of that image.
All right. So, that's why we can't see Jesus as a Chinese.
Look here. Remember, this picture was introduced into our childhood. This picture was introduced into our mother's consciousness even when she was a child. We were beaten as slaves to accept this picture, this imagery. So when they talk Jesus, this is the first step in the globalization process. The next step is to ensure that the message is to be preached to all the world. Not just your country and my country. It must now be preached to all the world as a witness, because the end cannot come until every human being living on the world today is inoculated by this doctrine.
You mean this virus?
This virus.
Something that I like to say. It's rather colorful, but I'll say it anyway. Black is our color, and black is our name. Health, strength, prosperity, and wisdom is okay. 'Cause black we are, and black we will always be. Black in the sight of everyone is so beautiful to see. Ah, da da, baby, come on and show me how really black you are. Baby, now.
Just gotta tell her, have no stress. To be near her is my greatest wish. To prepare her favorite dish. We've been together so long, and the black woman, you're my empress. Jano, and I believe in the Father, 'cause he is my fortress. It's been so long, and now I'm missing. Carried away by every wind of doctrine.
Yes, in studio here with Makonnen, and I must just say from now that I have another identity that links I into the world of sport. And through I is really an international football coach. I have some other I'll be in camp for next 2 sessions, next 2 editions of the Metamorphosis. Blak will not be on site. But this is Makanen who you hearing here. Makanen shall sit in. And in the following week, my brother Osa will do the duties of maintaining the movement of the Metamorphosis. Yeah, so we're looking at the pigment and the lack of the discussion around pigmentation and how is it they keep it out of religious discussions. Telling us that skin is not important because what's important is your soul. Yet the soul could really dwell in your skin. So we can't escape our skin, black people. People who try to escape their own skins really don't understand themselves. So the women now, an important part of the whole struggle because the women seem to have been captured by the image of Jesus. And I hear women say, boy, them love the Lord and them waiting for the Lord to send a man for them. And they want a perfect man. So black man now has been put into a corner of trying to be perfect for the black woman. But what is really a perfect man? Is it a man who behave like Jesus and look like Jesus? Why do you think them say Jesus perfect? It's because them say there's only one woman. The matter of fact, he had no women. So he had the power to resist all women. So every woman wants a man like that. Check it out.
No. No woman want a man like that. In fact and indeed. But you see, for the black man to be like Jesus is against himself.
What do you mean? I don't get that.
Well, you see, on the basis of how Jesus has been constructed, then how could a black man be like a white man and still be himself?
Well, that is the thing now, you know, because isn't that what we're all trying to be, like white people?
Well, that... and that is the difficult point that the black people have not been able to see.
Yes.
That you are striving for this perfection that does not exist. You are striving at the end of 400 years to be like the brutalizer that brutalized you.
So why do you think our society is so brutal then? You know, so the link between the brutality that we exercise amongst ourselves and our trying to imitate the brutal being.
There you go. You see, what we went through, you know, is cemented in our subconscious and our unconscious.
And I tell you now, you see those 2 levels where I speak of? It almost a cause of consciousness to get flooded.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in our unconscious no more. It's in our conscious mind.
But it is that conscious brutality that we are now perpetuating one against the other.
And expressing all mediums of how we communicate. Brutality in the song, brutality in the walk, brutality in the talk.
Yes.
Yeah, man, the place I get away.
It is brutality against each other.
Yeah.
That is what we are excelling in at the moment. What is needed now is clearly a new direction, a direction in which we, the people, come to realize that we, the black people, among each other have no natural enemies. Because the Anglican, the Church of God, the Seventh-day Adventist, the Catholic, and the Rasta share one common bond. We are brothers and sisters. We are mother and father, cousin, auntie, nephew. We are all relatives. So we cannot continue this business of bloodletting simply because we are striving so hard to be like this brutal brutalizer who enslaved us.
Metamorphosis, Stylzfm, Iman Blak in studio with Makonnen. Yeah, we are trying to infuse thought processes and to elevate the Empress. Good night to the Valerie and the people of Springbank. Yeah, child, I see you tuning in. Yes, man, give thanks. Yeah, Metamorphosis rolling on, and we're heading into the final 10 minutes of this program, and we, of course, have to give praises to that are Rastafari within ourselves. Yeah.
Oh, excellent is thy name, thou hast set thy glory above the heavens. For out of the mouths of babes and sucklings are thou art in strength to still enemies and the avenger. with thy new name, O Jah Rastafari.
This is a song that challenges that whole white supremacist ideology. Rastafari, come forward to challenge white supremacy in the cosmology. Yes, this is where Africa now is returning to the levels of the divinity. Back on in, Rastafari.
This is the point at which two worlds collide. The European concept of God, the European concept of salvation versus Rastafari, the new creation. Rastafari coming out of the belly of a people who were carried through the torturous process of slavery. Rastafari has declared and has established that His Imperial Majesty the Emperor is God Almighty.
Shocking.
No, this is shocking in the extreme to European consciousness, European theology, European philosophy.
Shocking to the black people who hold on to those European philosophies also.
Exactly. How dare these people to stand up and declare that this His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie could be God. But what we have to understand, is that this is no different from the Indians in India praising
Krishna,
the Lord Krishna, or the Chinese in China praising their gods. In fact, the Chinese are in China wondering how long is it going to take the black peoples of the world to understand that you have to praise your own God
and goddesses.
It is your right, it is your responsibility, because if you do not do it, you are going to go straight to the white man heaven and find yourself in hell.
Another form of slavery.
Exactly so.
Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis.
Lords of Lords and Savior, Lords of Lords and Savior, Lords of Lords. Bless.
Yeah, well, Iman Blak as usual, giving thanks and praises for just simply being present, because there's no other moment like the present. And of course, giving thanks to Makonnen. Makonnen will be sitting in for Blak in the next edition of the Metamorphosis as I take my journey around the island, put together my unit that will shock the schoolboy competition. Yes, I am saying that. In my other life, I am a football coach, international. So, one ones and one, keep it together. Keep the meditation moving towards your own self, and the self must be black. Yes. Stylzfm. UL. With there. Mystic. It's the most heal you. So me I heal you. And of course, my new hi-fi friend, Ruth Wendy. And the Titchfield football team. All the best in your preparation. Want to hear the tech staff out at Golden Grove. Suel. Yes, my virgin, give thanks. What a very nice camp. And Makonnen, I into the studio next strong. Just go on and keep it moving. Prosperity to all the listeners. Give thanks. I Blak out.
What's up?